G'day folks, it's Lord Reags with you. Just a little afterthought or post-mortem on that election of all elections in Australia last Saturday, the 18th of May, won by Scott Morrison and the Coalition. The passing thoughts I have is that it was a tussle between Christianity and, of course, atheism. There seems to be a lot of pushback by the silent majority in Australia and in the United States with the support of Trump, where people are fed up with being polled. So pollsters are going to find themselves out of business, I think, in the next few months. They've lost all credibility. They didn't pick the American election. They didn't pick the Australian election. I've been covering politics as a passion and as a professional working reporter for over 35 years, and I did predict a coalition victory, as my Facebook followers will be aware. Apparently the only one in Australia who did so, and there's evidence of that on YouTube. 3 weeks before the election, I predicted a majority government led by Scott Morrison, the Prime Minister, because he was the one who turned back the boats, and people never forget success. And Bill Shorten was a bit of a lightweight in terms of leadership on the world stage, and the average Aussie, doesn't matter whether they are a lifetime Labor voter or a lifetime Liberal voter, they tend to want a strong leader. And what they might do sometimes, having analysed and watched many elections over those years, is that they might elect a different political party to be in power in state level, and they'll have a different one again at the federal level. However, in New South Wales, which is where I live, we have a very good Liberal Premier in Gladys Berejiklian, and now we have a very good Prime Minister in Scott Morrison, who is from the Liberal Party. So this is very rare indeed, but it boils down to one thing, and that is the Labor Party had a very weak football team. There weren't any rising stars coming through the ranks, except for perhaps that Chalmers guy from Queensland, but he hasn't had much experience. He's only been in Parliament for 3 years, and I'm hoping that today, when the spill takes place, the vote for a new leader of the Labor Party, I hope it's just Albo, and I hope it's Albo unopposed, and that it's unanimous, because the Labor Party definitely needs unity in a hurry, because they've just been smashed in the 2019 election, and they'll be licking their wounds for many elections to come. I cannot see them getting back into office for 16 years. That's my bold prediction. I predict that Albo will fight the good fight in the next election around about 2023, but he will lose. His leadership will be under threat, but he will hang on, and he'll fight another election in 2027, and that again will be won by the Coalition. And in 2031, I predict another Coalition victory. But with the new leader, I predict that Penny Wong will come from the Senate to the House of Representatives and be the new leader of the Labor Party in the late 2020s. And then she will lose to Julie Bishop, who I predict will come back to politics and become a fabulous female Prime Minister of Australia, because she's too valuable to have on the benches. And finally, in 2031, Tanya Plibersek will get her chance to be the new leader of the Labor Party, and she will win in 2035. And that's the earliest Lord Reags can predict and forecast Labor coming back to power in Australia, because of this ridiculous opposition shadow treasurer that they've got in Christopher Bowen. He is the worst thing I've ever seen in politics in my 35 years covering federal and state politics in Australia. I call him Abacus Bowen, because he can't add up. He needs an abacus to add up and subtract. He's hopeless, and that's just the franking credits thing was just an absolute schmozzle, and wanting to tax self-funded retirees to the extent that he was proposing was just a travesty, absolute travesty. And I could see a mile off that Scott Morrison was going to win. And when he just put everything into it, and he was working his tail off, racing around Australia to get with the little people and find out what they wanted, and he's going to be a very good Prime Minister, I believe. I think he'll be better than Bob Hawke, easily better than Paul Keating. And so I do believe that Bowen also shot his party in the foot by an own goal, saying, if you don't like what we're about, don't vote for us. Well, they didn't. Silly boy, Bowen, silly boy.